All right. Hey, students, this is Mr. C with take two on this lecture. I tried to record it before and had the wrong screen shared. So I'm trying again. Hopefully we learn from our mistakes here. This is going to be a quick lecture on how to do academic research and how to help you spend less time reading really dense journal articles, but doing more effective research so that you can write great research papers like your purpose paper. And so I wanted to give you some tips here. This should save you a lot of time and make the research process more enjoyable and a lot easier. So we'll see if I can scroll through some of these slides here. All right, so step one, we want to use your assignment description or topic prompt to create a list of search topics. So in whatever thing you're doing research on, you should come up with a list of search queries first. And because if you have a good list of search queries, it's going to make it so much easier to do the online research. Back in the day, we would just go to the library and we would look for books, or we'd pick up journals off of bookshelves and have to go through the table of contents. Obviously, it's way easier today with the databases we have online. And so it's not a matter of being able to have access to information, but finding the right information and not wasting a lot of time while you do that. So let's pull this from our purpose paper. So in the purpose paper, it says we're going to be asked to discuss what you see as a purpose or purposes of school, public schooling in society. What role do schools serve? What role should they serve? And in this particular assignment, you have an opinion based on what roles schools serve. That's why we have in-class discussions to talk about your experience, or if you're online, you've had experience with schools, and so you already have a sense or an idea in your mind of why we have schools. In the discussion board, we're going to ask you to share some of those reasons that we have schools. But now we want you to have an informed opinion. We want you to have an educated opinion on why we have schools. And so part of the reason that we'll do this purpose paper is so that you can take your own experience and now add to that through the research so that you have an informed opinion. So bearing that in mind, I've already created a list of things that I might do if I was doing this research. If I'm looking at the purposes of school, I would say roles of school, why we have schools, purpose of schools, roles of schools in the 21st century, how schools prepare students, schools in society, differences of US schools versus international schools or foreign schools. So now we can take that list, and step two is you're going to go to Google Scholar. Now, if you haven't been to Google Scholar before, it's simply scholar.google.com, or you can just search in Google for Google Scholar and you'll find it. But when you get there, it's important that you log in using your student account. So let's flip over to Google Scholar real quick. All right. And here in Google Scholar, you'll see that my picture is up here in the upper right. If I click on it, I can see which account I'm logged into. This has my university email, so I'm logged into the right one. If you're not, you just sign out and then sign in using your school credentials. The reason you do that is because the university pays lots and lots of money every year to have access to academic journal archives. And so if you do this on your own and you're not signed in, you can still use Google Scholar and it'll help you find a lot of sources, but you might not be able to read those articles because you don't have access. Academic journal articles sometimes are really, really expensive. So to look at a single article, you might pay $50. But by being a student, you have access to all those articles. So now we're logged in and we'll take, you see, I've already searched a bunch, so it has my saved there. I'll clear my queue because I want you to see what it looks like for you. So if I just type in purpose of school, then you see that there's a bunch of suggested endings to the search query, right? So purpose of schooling, purpose of school education, schooling in America, school history. And so some of those things might be things that I search later if just purpose of school doesn't turn up great results. So I'll go ahead and click on the search thing there. And let's talk about what we have now in your search results. So in this main column here, it's going to have the title of different articles, book chapters, papers. In the left column, there are some filters that you can use. And I almost always use these because I like current research. So I'm going to click on since 2018, and they'll give me results from 2018 and newer, which is really great. On the right column, you see that it has a PDF or full text via SUU or university. Typically, I'm going to look for PDFs because if I can open that right away, I can just look through the article. So let's look at where we have PDFs and then see if the articles that it's suggesting are going to answer our question. So early adolescent purpose development and perceived supports for purpose at school. That's kind of it, but I don't fully understand just based off that what it is. Norwegian and Swedish post-compulsory school students. Excuse me. Perspectives on the purpose of school math. That's a little niche down. I don't want to use that yet. Our school's robbing students, resuscitating the purpose of school through CPR. Oh, interesting. So that's very specific to CPR. Discovering identity and purpose in the classroom. Oh, but it didn't have a PDF, so I skipped it. COVID-19, do we need to reimagine the purpose of school inspections? Oh, it was close, but I don't care about inspections. The relationship between high school sophomores' purpose orientations and their post-secondary completion a decade later. Not quite what we're looking at. So this is not a great search query for us. We might want to get more specific. So purpose of schooling, and let's go ahead in America. So now the main purpose of schooling, gaining knowledge or earning credentials. That sounds great. So we're going to want to open that. And you'll notice I right-clicked and opened in a new tab because I want to keep this open if I want to come back to this later. Now, if I come over here, I'm going to have to sign in using my sign-in stuff. I might have to do a push. Nope, it opened it for me. All right. And then here it says the title, but I'm not actually seeing the full article here. Find this article in full text. Let's try that. Just thinking about it. All right. And again, it's bringing us to the thing, but it's saying we have to pay for it. So I don't know why this was listed as open for SUU if it didn't have the full thing. I'm going to close it out and go back to where I was. Boo. Social mobility and equal opportunities, the purpose of schooling in the United States and Nagasaki. So this actually could be really interesting. Let's see if this one actually opens. It opened as a PDF. And if we click on it, it looks like it's got some slides. It's done in Japanese and English. Interesting. But it does look like we get a full article here. I'm going to look at the abstract first to see if this is really getting at what I want. This brief study examines the purpose of schooling in the United States and offers a comparison with the observed purpose of schooling in Japan. Oh, this could be really interesting and helpful. The author reflects on her experience as a language teacher. Now, if I scroll down, I'm just going to go through the headers, and this is important. When you do research, don't read the whole article, especially not in the early stages. Look to see that it's about what it's about and if it will help you with the research that you're doing. And there are a few areas of the article that are especially important. So the abstract, number one, you need to read the abstract, the introduction. That will tell you if you're on track. I read that and I felt like this is going to have some good stuff. So now I'm going to scroll down and just look at the headers. The purpose of schooling, evaluation of a school, path forward. So that's going to be like results, right? And then the references. This is a relatively short article, so we could go through the whole thing pretty quickly, but I'm just going to look at the intro and then the conclusion. So here it's the path forward. And really, I typically skip to that last paragraph. So while this person was inclined to suggest an overall mindset change, I recognize this level of change will include a much larger cultural and systematic change. Let's see, but does it actually say what the purposes of schooling are? 21st century skills. Okay, so developing 21st century skills, and let's see, embrace collaboration, risk-taking, and critical thinking. So the acquisition of 21st century skills would allow the students to transition to players of work in higher education with these. So here, 21st century skills, that sounds great. So I'm going to open up, not that. I'm going to open up a blank document, and let's just say one of the purposes of schooling is to develop 21st century skills like collaboration. Listed a few others. Let's go back to that article. There we go. Risk taking and critical thinking. Risk taking and critical thinking. Now you'll notice this is not the way they wrote it exactly in their article, so I'm not doing a direct copy and paste of a quote. That's something that a lot of high school teachers encourage students to do, but in actual research, it's better to paraphrase when you can, but then to cite the idea. So this isn't my idea, so I'm going to open a parenthesis so I can put the author's name. And then I'm going to find the citation. So I am going to have a period in my paper, or an area in my paper that says references. And then I need to find the citation for that. So I'm going to go back to the article, and this is the article that is called Social Mobility and Equal Opportunities. So now, if I come back to the tab, not that tab, this tab, that talks about social mobility and equal opportunities, I can find the name of the author simply by clicking the cite button. So there's a button right here that says cite, and it's going to give you the citation in MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, or Vancouver. In education, the standard's APA, but that's for education generally. If you're in language arts, you might use MLA. If you're in history, they might use Chicago. I can't remember which one is which, but APA is usually a safe bet. So I'm going to take that, Control-C to copy it. Then I'm going to go back to my paper and paste it in. So now I have the reference. Now, it says EIS in Washington, and then Caitlin. I think this is the last name is Caitlin, so I'm actually going to delete that part. And then for the reference in my text, I'm just going to put Caitlin 2020, period. So now I have an idea that I can explore in my paper. So if I want to talk about how schools are all about developing 21st century skills, I can share my opinion and my experience. So I can now talk about, for example, when I was in high school, and then talk about the 21st century skills that I experienced. Or if I don't want it to be so informal and have when I was in high school, I could say, for example, high school students are able to collaborate with each other in writing papers or whatever. So now I can put my own experience into that based off my experience, but it's informed by research. And that's the goal here. So as we look at what we have available through Google Scholar, you'll see that you can find a lot of papers really fast. You can scroll through them really fast and find some information. And then I might want to pursue that path. So I might want to find more things about purpose of schooling in 21st century, right? So that's what the other one talked about, 21st century skills. And now I'm going to find other articles that are related to that. Literature review of 21st century skills in primary education. So I can open that in another tab, go through it. And again, remember, spend your time with the abstract, maybe the intro, but most research articles set up studies like, where they have the methods and they then show different tables and results, but they're always going to summarize that at the end in the conclusion. So that's what you really want to focus on in doing the research. Well, I hope this gets you started with your purpose paper and help save you time by not reading entire journal articles, but finding the main ideas. In our class, you're often going to be asked to read several articles in a week, but I'm not fully expecting you to read every sentence of every paragraph. When there are research articles like this one, it's read through the introduction and the conclusion and be able to summarize the big ideas or the main parts. If you can do that, then that's going to inform your opinion and make you a better researcher and ultimately a better writer and scholar and teacher. And it will probably just make you happy too. All right. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and let me know. But this should get you started. Thanks. Bye.